Recently, myself and another resident of the Abbey took our personal leave time, and one person went to visit their family. And this time, yet again, I chose to not go back to Australia, and I took my leave here. And this has been on my mind. It was on my mind during retreat because it's been 4 years since my parents came here to visit, which was quite wonderful for them to meet the community. And it's been 5 years since I went back to Sydney to get my visa. So down at Tara's, sitting with a cup of tea, I was reading some verses from Shanti Deva that we'd been studying. And this memory came back to mind, a little vignette relating to one of the verses that I thought I'd share. And it relates to verse 14 from chapter 8 that goes something along the lines of, "Others and I relying upon each other in this way will bring about nothing but ruin. They will not accomplish my purpose, and I too will not accomplish their purpose." So the mental image I have thinking about this verse is kind of like dominoes leaning against each other, and then they fall. And it's kind of like the cascade or the domino effect of the ripples of misery that can come from sticky attachment relationships. But the vignette that was coming to mind, or the memories coming to mind, was when I went back to Sydney at the end of 2017 to have my all-important interview for my religious worker visa. I didn't know how long I'd be there for, because of how long the process would take or the follow-ups and all that kind of stuff. So my dad drove me into the inner city where the interview was at the embassy, and all goes well, and I get out, I'm like, great, and I can basically come back to the Abbey immediately. And so I'm over the moon and ecstatic, and wanting to come back and book my flight to get back as quickly as possible. And they'd been hoping that I'd stay for a month or two. And so, yeah, my dad asked also, will you stay for a month or so? I was like, no, I'm going back. I was so excited to be part of the community. I was still in my blues and very much wanted to come back for an event that was here. And so I ended up choosing to stay for 16 days so I could be there for a while and then come back here for with the community. But what preceded was a very icy hour-long or more drive home back to the house, where the disappointment from my dad's side that I didn't choose to stay longer was just palpable in the car with each other. And yeah, thinking back to that, it's very much I was not accomplishing his purpose by not choosing to stay with the family in the family home. And a clear thing of, his happiness relying on my presence, or that kind of unspoken sense there. And that was in the first few days of the 16-day-long visit. And then the memory that immediately followed was towards the end of the trip, where I think it was the day before I was flying back home here home. Kind of, I think most cultures and most families celebrate or meet over food. And so it's like, okay, so let's not sit in the house with the TV. Let's get out and connect and be in a framework where it's more we can relate and talk and share in that. But on that day, my dad wasn't feeling so well. I didn't quite understand the depth of it, though. So, me and my mom, okay, let's go out. So then we go out. My dad's kind of dragging his feet and not really wanting to, but he does anyway. And so then we're sitting in this little restaurant, and my dad doesn't order any food because he's not feeling well, doesn't want to really be there or eat or can't eat. And then the energy just dies because I'm there. I feel guilty and crappy because I've pushed for us to go out. I don't even remember what my mom was doing because this is more a story of like the attachment between father and daughter. But he's there kind of in his own world, and I'm just sitting there going, wow. And again, another story of like, my attachment, wanting to create this, these rituals, we celebrate or we connect over food, we go by going out. If we do this then together, then I'll be happy. But again, this relying on each other in this way with expectations and happiness, and if we do this, then I'll be happy. if you do this, then I'll be happy, it just brings misery and disappointment. And it's not the relationship that's the problem, it's the style of relationship. And reflecting on the verse, it's the relying on each other. It's not, the relating is not a problem, but it's the sticky relying where it's you are the source of my happiness, as opposed to the mind being the source of happiness and pain. Yeah, and so it is time that I would like to see my parents again. I would love them to come here. My dad being involved in construction, I think he would get a lot out of seeing the unfolding of the very big hole that is currently on the construction site for the Buddha hole. And I think he's interested in coming to see the unfolding as well. But it's how do I want to move forward in terms of this relationship that I want to nourish for the rest of my life as long as my parents are here with me, in a way that is not based on unrealistic expectations of what we can give each other, but rather relating from a framework of love in terms of may you be happy and have the causes for happiness, and a framework of gratitude and respect and kindness. And not relying on them or encouraging their relying on me as a source of their happiness or my happiness, but rather relying on the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and my refuge in bodhicitta as a framework that I can learn how to relate to all beings in a very healthy and beneficial way that brings benefit and not ruin.